What's that?
IODIS emission.
How many is this?
1.
Just 1? Flipping heck.
All right, let's do it. I have found it. The Carbon Infestor is real, and it absolutely dominated me. I can list some of the things I did wrong in this game, such as slacking a bit on macro and not microing my army like a GM, but it shouldn't be costing me the game at Platinum. I attempted to play 3cc Heli and Banshee, and I believe I executed it well enough. For a flat player, I deal good damage, and as some would say, I'm in an unlosable position. My complaint is about the fungal growth ability in tandem with Ling Bane. In Brood War, Zerg had Ensnare and Plague. 2 powerful abilities that basically turn into fungal growth when merged together. In 509 BC, the Roman monarchy was overthrown and the Republic commenced with the election of the first consuls. What the hell does this have to do with StarCraft? Thing is, whenever someone is hit by one of those spells, they can choose to run away and not fight. If they choose to run, they often keep at least a large fraction of their army alive. Obviously, if they get hit by the spell in the middle of a fight, it's a different story. On bio, sure, pre-splitting would negate a lot of the fungal's potential, but then what happens when a fight starts? You either stutter step the micro like a madman, or pick up and boost away so you can't actually win a fight. Only trade well. And then Julia Roberts, in front of the entire London press, says she will be staying in London indefinitely to live happily ever after with Hugh Jackman's character, and that's the actual end of Notting Hill? Like, hello? Maybe I left too early. But the Zerg had a massive bank and a lot of hatches, so it was a lost game. So, tell me, does fungal growth do too much damage, last too long, slow down too much, or do I suck? I complain about Protoss, now it's time to complain about Zerg. Next up, Terran. That was it. All right, my dear friends, here we go. Max Rax versus Pangelo. Pangelo on the top left as our Zerg player, the Infestor abusing Zerg player, the Notting Hill Julia Roberts hating Zerg player. In the bottom right, we have the honorable Max Rax, our Terran player, who, despite not having Grandmaster Micro, is going to be completely capable, or should be completely capable of beating every single Zerg in the world. So, let's have a look at this. Standard opener coming out of him. I actually do like that. We're going to get an SCV scout as well, which I don't really mind at all. Very safe, very cool. Hatch first, even going to mine the minerals before. Like, this is someone that has definitely watched a build order guide or two in his life and knows how to copy. On the other hand, we have the Zerg player with what seems to be just a standard hatch gas pool as well. So we're really hitting the level here of people that are apparently capable of somewhat executing a build. Gonna get an SCV scout here too. Beautiful stuff. Now, this is really the essence of StarCraft 2. You know, the build order, the fundamentals. And if it goes wrong in the fundamentals, then it's often very difficult to even critique someone appropriately. Because they're living on a different world, you know? You need to have a base set of skills in order to successfully make it on the ladder. And that base set of skills seems to be here for both players. Fast speed though, holy crap. Still mining gas as well. Definitely a different setup than I'm used to. So whenever you're mining gas in the early game as a Zerg, it means that your third base is going to be delayed quite significantly. So Reaper arrives over here. Ooh, nice extractor micro. 0 links to defend, by the way. This is absolutely not allowed with this particular opener. Queen timing actually is really late too. So the Queen should pop out 2 minutes and 36 seconds in. This Reaper should be attacking drones, not the spy. So this Queen is going to be late by about, 14 seconds for no real reason. A very interesting maneuver. He accidentally finished an extractor. If I'm max Rex in this case, I'd be extremely happy because the position that you're finding yourself in is just very good. Now, this is also a typical Terran thing. I'm actually going to... I don't like mentioning this too often, but this time I will. Is the fact that he decided to go for a creep tumor snipe despite floating enough money to start a starport. This is one of these things that kind of grinds my gears, okay? I am not saying that going for creep tumor snipes is bad, but there are other things to go for, you know? There's really other things to do first. Like, this is the equivalent, really, of you being incapable of feeding your family and then buying a pizza cutter that is attached to like a bike. I've seen that many times. My parents actually have one of those. It's like a bike, and then you drive it into the pizza and it cuts it. These things are pretty, it's like $15 or so. It's like, bro, that's a lot of bags of rice, you know?
Whoa, whoa. Here I come. Oh, here I come. Oh.
First, get the fundamentals down. You know, first you need you need your belly filled. You need your belly filled, and then you can get the fancy pizza cutter, but not before. And that's the case here as well. You can snipe creep tumors after we throw down our starport at a reasonable time, after we start our first 2 Hellions at a reasonable time. Gonna get the swap. This is actually a very nice setup. This is a very solid triple CC Hellion Banshee. I love the execution. Well, not the execution. Yeah, actually, I don't mind the execution. Some minor mistakes, but overall, solid stuff. Good SCV production here. Pangolo doesn't even have a third base yet. Does have a really fast freaking lair. Oh wait, he does have a third. It's going up over here. What the hell? That is not the standard third base location. There also is only 8 links out right now. We have a Spire coming in, 4 minutes and 40 seconds. Now, if I'm a Terran player and I'm seeing all this, what I would do is I send my Reaper into the main. It might not work, but perhaps you can get a little bit of extra info off, you know? A little bit of extra info. If you get the read on the Spire, or maybe a Nidus network, or a Roach, that's going to be absolutely fantastic for you. And things that are absolutely fantastic for you are also fantastic for the game that you're playing. Not sure why I speak sometimes. Okay, 6 gases coming in. 4th base on the heavy fire. In the imbalance complaint form, for the people that stayed for the entirety of the imbalance complaint form, we had the... I messed up my infrastructure and got my 2nd and 3rd barracks slightly late, and my 4th and 5th barracks extremely late. I can definitely say that is the case here, okay? Yeah, we're just floating a lot of cash. No e-base quite yet either. So the way that you usually build things is you get 3 barracks, you get your refineries, you get your e-base, and then you get barracks 4 and 5. Right now, we haven't even gotten our 4th refinery quite yet. It's probably not going to be an issue because Maxtrax is going to be floating money until the end of time. We can feel that, we can smell that already. But had there been really any decent amount of macro here in this game, I think the first Marine push would have just straight up won the game, right? Like, we're floating freaking 1600 minerals. The opener of Pangelo is so extremely bad. Like, it's just really, really bad economically. Way too gas heavy. This is absolutely not a viable way to play. You can see that by the money that Maxrax is floating and still being up in supply. Like, it just shows that this is a non-viable build order. And this is what I talk about when I say, hey, this is a non-viable build. And it's still possible that Pangelo wins, but this build order was absolutely not good. There's going to be mines with this. What else are we building, buddy? Extra barracks, e-base? No. 4th gas. Maybe float the 3rd CC over towards the 3rd base. Right now we have serious oversaturation on this base. I'm being critical, but Maxrax is still winning by an insanely large margin. Like, this is really an unlosable game in my mind. Did he research Stim? It has Stim, no combat shield quite yet. That is a mistake as well. Banshees are going to get more kills. There's just no spores. Like, this is legit unlosable. 2.2k minerals in the bank, 600 gas. We now are going to get barracks 4 and 5. Still no e-base, by the way. Just take note of that. 35 workers to 51. Like, okay, now we're going to get our first 2 e-base. Haven't built a worker either in like 5 minutes. Just for, as a kind of a reference point, usually at this stage in the game, the Terran player has already started his 4th base, has a 3rd base that is fully saturated with 5 or 6 gas, 2nd factory done, 1-1 done, combat shield done, and you probably have 4, 5, 6 medevacs on the map being active on the other side. Right now we have no Medevacs being active on the other side. There's no turrets going up in the main base either. I guess that is because he hasn't scouted actually what he's up against. Perhaps he could have figured it out. Low drone count, high gas, usually indicates Mutalis. Here we go. Mine is actually going to connect, kills one of these Mutas, and turret now will go up. So these Mutas actually incapable of doing anything whatsoever. We still haven't had any formal pressure on the other side of the map. We've had some harassment with Hellions and Banshees, but Marines haven't made their way on the map quite yet, which is extremely bad because that is really what Marines are for. Marines are not a late game unit composition. Marines are a unit that you build in the first 10 to 12 minutes in the game in order to put on pressure, deny creep, deal damage, safely get into your gas units. The Marines, although Marines are very good for a very long time, eventually you do want to trade them out for better units, where there's going to be higher tank counts, more Marauders, more Ghost included as well. It doesn't really matter, but they're good right in this moment, right? So you want to be using them because they're really cheap, they're easily to reproduce, they're very, very powerful of creep, but right now you're not actually utilizing them. So it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. It's kind of like vegetables, you know? If you buy like 500 kilos of tomatoes and then you leave them in your shed for like 4 weeks, they're probably gonna rot fairly quickly. Your shed is gonna smell really bad as well. If you put 500 Marines in your shed, I also think your shed is gonna smell well. That's nothing to do with this analogy, but it's basically the same. Like over time, they just get much, much worse, especially actually against all races, especially against Zerg and Protoss. Against Terrans, sometimes you see them a little bit longer, or you see them for very long, but because the existence of Colossus, of Banelings, of Ultralisk, Lurkers, against all of these units, Marines just fall off pretty hard at that point. So here, Banelings are gonna start connecting. Very clean pickup here, manages to pick up 9 still. Much better than I really expected out of a Platinum. Whenever I watch Platinum games and I see Banelings walking into Marines, I'm expecting every single Marine to die. I'd like to kind of plant a flag here. We haven't seen Combat Shield start or finish. In order to finish, you need to start first. Baneling's now gonna get full connections. Yeah, this is more the Platinum battle that I'm looking for. Pangelo has managed to, by the way, kind of transition into an almost normal game. Like, he is floating too, like, it's not like money is his problem right now. Despite the poor economic start, I don't think money is actually a massive issue. Like, because he's floating about, 4.5k resources. 2 medevacs are on the top side. We have a couple of Marines moving in through the middle. Combat Shield still not starting. 2-2 very late as well. So there's the funny thing in this game that both players are making so many mistakes that also both players have like 7 different ways to win. Like, had Combat Shield finished up, had 2-2 and 1-1 started instantly, this game would be completely over. Just really completely over. At the same time, it seems like Maxrax is completely incapable of winning a fight, because the only way he believes he can win is by running away from the units and then picking up when he loses all the units that are on the ground and don't fit in the medevacs, which is really kind of an interesting setup here that we're seeing. Like, if you're up this much in supply, you should absolutely be capable of just fighting straight up against 7 Banelings. Maybe without Combat Shield it's going to be a little bit tough, but I think even without Combat Shield it's going to be possible. Fort Base here is done. We're still just purely producing Marines, by the way. This should be a tech lab and this should be a tech lab. And the moment barracks 6, 7, and 8 finish up, these tech labs should be producing Marauders initially, and then later on going into Ghosts. The reason why you want Marauders is because Marauders are a great meat shield for the Marines. You put 7 Marauders in front of your Marines, it becomes really hard for Banelings to get to the Marines. They'll need to run around, the Marauders have slow. If you're A-moving your Banelings, they're guaranteed to go into the Marauders, so you need to move command them. That's all trouble, and people at Platinum generally don't do that. Gonna have another scan forward. Now has realized that Combat Shield is gone. The entire play, look at this. This is actually just it is a run in and run out. Now, is there a way in which we could do this more intelligently? Rather than going in a ball like this, we could pre-split off creep a little bit, send like 5 Marines forward maybe, and then go for it. But instead what he does is he runs back, kills 2 Lings, then starts splitting to the side in the face of Banelings, loses all of his Marines, and then at the end says, maybe I can pick something up. Oh, never mind, I can't. Like, this is not at all how you want to be fighting against Banelings. Also, I'd like to note that the complaint was about fungals, but if you're microing like this, fungals are just not necessary. Like, the Banelings are hitting every single time anyway. The fungals are really just there to keep units in place majority of the time. And if these units are already in the perfect position to die, then a fungal isn't entirely necessary. Look at this. Another group of Marines. Resources lost is about even still, which is... This will never cease to amaze me in TVZ, is that you can watch a Terran just throw like 500 Marines into Banelings again and again and again, and they'll still be fine, you know, and the resources lost. It's really difficult for Terrans to be down in resources lost. Like, you have to try hard, especially if your opponent is completely on lair attack. That's not the case anymore, though. We now are going to get a hive out. We have a hive and a lair. Love to see it. I kind of would like to see an ultra cavern here being thrown down as well. Because if we actually look at the unit composition, we now have 61 Marines and 2 Marauders. This is not correct at all. At some point in the imbalance complaint form, Max Rex actually said, I can hear other players laughing and saying stuff like, just make Ghost, noob. But making Ghost against someone playing Ling Bane seems pretty dumb. They may as well be an expensive Marauder. Ghost is like an expensive Marauder. It's like, well, first of all, Ghosts are not at all like an expensive Marauder. Like, if you were to compare the two, the Marauder has less damage, no spells, doesn't shoot air, can become invisible, doesn't nuke. Like, the Ghost has a lot of extra features that make it, you know, a more expensive Marauder. Like, it's a completely different unit. Jesus Christ. That's a nice fungal. Didn't matter, though. Like, this actually didn't matter. Look at it. The fungal is completely irrelevant. Like, it is somewhat relevant, but all of these units would have died anyway because he didn't even stim. He didn't even stim. You see? He would have just lost all of them anyway. It literally was completely... This fungal is not what killed these units. What killed these units is the fact that you were standing still on creep, not stimming. But yeah, what I was gonna say is that the problem... Like, both Ghost and Marauder here would have been fine. Like, I would have been okay with either. He said that building Ghost against Ling Bane feels like a waste. It's like... Why is that a waste? Why is it bad to have to build a more expensive unit to build a cheaper unit? Like, if I'm playing against a Terran player massing Marines, and I'm just going mass Stalker, and then in the end, I barely manage to lose because I micro like an absolute idiot, then I don't go, oh, I'm supposed to be building Colossus against Marines? What? Marine a tier 1 unit, and I need a tier 3 unit? It's like, yeah, sometimes if your opponent is building a lot of basic units, and you can get a more complex, expensive unit later on in the game because you have a lot of cash, it is good to build that unit. So it's not a waste, or you're not forced into building Ghost. If you have good micro, you build a lot of mines, or you add in Marauders into the mix, it's completely fine, but you're not doing any of that. You're not building mines. You have 5 mines. None of them are ever in the fight. This is the same mine that killed the one Muta earlier on. You have an army consisting of 38 Marines and 2 Marauders. Like, this is legitimately a terrible unit composition. And this is something we've been seeing a whole lot as of late in IODIS, is where people are playing, honestly, a fine first 10 minutes for their level. Like, this was completely fine. Yes, I'm making fun of the micro because it is really bad, but also, you're Platinum. I'm kind of expecting it to be bad. What I'm not expecting you is to be so brain dead that the only unit you can build is the Marine. This is a strategy game, man. It's a strategy, and your strategy is building the first unit that becomes available to you. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. This is like calling every single time in poker because that's the first thing you learned. It's like, very interesting. I have a 2 and an 8 offsuit. My opponent's going all in. Yeah, call. We'll go for a cheeky call. Then complaining that call isn't strong enough. It's like, yeah, there's multiple things you can use in this game, bro. You could fold every now and again. Okay, 2 Ghosts finally come out. At least the first 2 Ghosts. 13 more Marines, 2 Ghosts. Marauder coming in too. It's phenomenal stuff. Mine's gonna get a hit. Doesn't even have drilling claws. Doesn't even have drilling claws on this mine. This is truly something. Now starts it. Ay. As we say in the Netherlands, that is mustard after the meal. Yeah, freaking mine already died. Surreal. 6 Ultralisk. I mean, there is legitimately no way that you're gonna have a majority Marine army taking on the Space Cows. Like, it is just simply not possible. Because they don't do any damage to Ultralisk Marines. Like, hardly any damage. You're going to need something else, whether it's Liberators, Marauders, Mines, ideally a combination of those. Ghost with Snipe is all fine as well. Also, let's not forget that ever since he lost 1 or 2 fights, he completely stopped splitting his army. This is one of the main things you also want to do, especially if you have more primitive army comps, is to split it. If you're in a big clump together against like this type of army, it becomes really hard to fight. But in split setups, you can maybe still clear a base. You can keep your opponent busy while you're attacking into a more complex army composition. In this case, for whatever reason, the Raven. Now, I love getting Ravens in the mix, don't get me wrong. I'm actually a fan of this. I'm not a fan of this if you're forgetting all the other fundamentals. As in building ghost counts, building up Marauder counts. It just doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. I also haven't seen any fungals. It's like the one thing he's complaining about isn't really happening. Like, I'd reckon he'd actually complain about the Baneling or about the Ultralisk. Because these are the units that are winning the game here for the Zerg. The fungal is there to kind of rub it in, you know? But the micro is so poor that the fungal isn't even really a necessity. Gonna get up to 21 Banes right now. Plus 13. 34 Banes. It's a very decent Baneling count. What do we have against that? We have 9 Mines, which are semi-spread around. We have 2 Vikings for whatever reason. We have a Raven. Is this like the Overlord clearing squad? 18 minutes into the game or something? Look at this. This is going to be a fight and a half. It's going to be a fight and a half. Oh. He didn't even fungal. I think we've seen like 2 fights with a fungal. Nice drop on the Ghost. This is like sacrificing everything inside to lose weight. Medevac might move quicker. I feel like that should be the case. If you load up the Medevac with more units, it should be slower. Where's the realism, man? God, Blizzard really dropped the ball on that. Really dropped the ball on that. GG. This is one of those games where, you know, when you're learning a new language, or when you're a kid and you're learning a new language, you need to like match up like a picture that you have with like a word. So you see like a fat piece of butter, and then the word butter is on the right, and you like draw like a squiggly line there. And then in the end, it's like 7 lines. You know, you have the picture of the grass and the word grass, and you max it, and you match it up. If I were to do this with IODIS forms, I don't actually think I would be capable of matching this one with the form that I read. Because I've seen legit 1 fungal that wasn't even impactful, because the micro was bad enough that the entire army would have died anyway. So the main complaint is completely unfounded in reality. There's nothing there. I never quite know what to say to this type of stuff, where it is so obvious to me that the real issue in this game is something else. If I'm writing this imbalanced complaint I'm complaining about the Baneling, the Zerg's ability to come back into the game, produce en masse, you know, being too strong on creep because the units are too fast, not needing any good splits or micro in order to fight, like all of these things. But instead he went for the fungal. There's like half an infestor in this game. This guy built a single infestor in the entirety of the game. I think this infestor has 3 kills. Like, what are we complaining about? To me, the conclusion here is honestly very simple again. Like, you're someone that has a good understanding of the first 6-7 minutes, knows what needs to be done. Execution is much above your level. And then once you pretty much, you know, where the book ends, you know, you read a little theory book on how to play the first 6 minutes, and once that ends, it's like, pew, you have no clue about any strategy whatsoever. You're incapable of thinking critically. Like, you're looking at your army consisting of 68 Marines, 1 Marauder against like 45 Banelings, and you're going to yourself, it seems like a fine army composition. Yeah, you look good. I think I'll win this fight. You just walk in, boom, another 40 Marines down the drain. So, yeah. It is not the infestor that is imbalanced or Zerg that is imbalanced, my friend. No, it is indeed you who sucks. That's just the way it is. All right, it's going to be it for me today. If you did enjoy this video, subscribe to the channel. Mightily important. Hit like, leave a comment down below. Tell me what you thought of the single infestor that we saw in this game. And hopefully I'll see all of you next time for a new video. Bye-bye. Woo!